announcement.
Do you want to talk about the subtitles?
Yes, thank you, Ziva. There are subtitles that are on. So it's at the bottom of your screen. It says live transcript. And so if you would like to some support, perhaps English isn't your first language, or we're talking too fast for you, or whatever reason, Zoom does a pretty good job of capturing what we say so that you can read it along with us. So I'm going to announce the beginning of the call.
And before you start the recording, for those of you who've joined, Jim mentioned this earlier, but if you do not want to be in a breakout group, please put an equal sign before your name so that when I make the groups, I will make sure they're balanced with people who want to be there. Thank you.
Yeah. So today's Monday, November the 15th, 2021. And this is the Open-Hearted Practice Group, where we've been exploring the Pathways to Liberation matrix of self-assessment. This week, we're exploring the skill called taking ownership of one's feelings. You don't need to know what that means yet. You'll know what it means by the end of the call. And how we do that is hopefully with a light heart and not taking things too seriously. Today's class is designed to really be fun, and there's lots of small group work. Probably 45 minutes or so of our time will be in small groups. And it's a very fun process. I think you'll enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And we also will practice what Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, called the 3 modes of nonviolent communication. So the first mode is self-connection or self-empathy. So we'll do that in just a moment. I'll lead you through a practice. And then we'll also put you in small groups immediately after that to practice the other 2 modes, the listening part of NVC, which we call empathy, and the speaking part, which we call honesty. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with a little self-connection exercise. You're already doing it. Those of you who have been with us since the very first class of this series where we covered presence, you're always present to something. And self-connection is really a reminder of that presence, and maybe providing you with some choice about what you're present with or present to. And so just notice what you're present to right now. I imagine you hear the sound of my voice. You might also hear the sound of the roosters that live in our rainforest. Maybe you can hear the sound of doves cooing in the background. Maybe you hear sounds in your own environment. So be quiet for 30 seconds while you just listen. So from this presence, we move into this practice of observing. In this case, observing the channel of what we perceive with our ears. One thing I'd like to call your attention to about listening is how effortless it is. You don't have to try to listen. You have a nervous system that was perfectly designed to listen. You might also be aware of thoughts. Maybe you have a thought like, this is cool, or when are we going to get to the practice, or what is he talking about, or something else. What's for dinner? That's observing too, when you notice your thoughts. You may also be aware of feelings. So the easiest way to connect to feelings is to notice sensations that are present in your body. There's lots of different kinds of sensations. This group made a fantastic list of about 180 sensations a couple of weeks ago. You might notice a tingle or a vibration or constriction, warmth, coolness, something else. You might label the sensations pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, or maybe you don't have a label for it at all. Or maybe you have fine-tuned your labeling system so that you might have 185 different words that could describe the sensations you notice. Sometimes we take these sensations and turn them into emotions. We add some meaning to the sensations. You can notice your emotions arise and fall. Maybe you feel happy, curious, angry, annoyed, irritated, wonder, gratitude, something else. And you might notice the link between feelings and what's important to you. So just consider for a moment right now the answer to the question, what's important to you right now? I predict that every single one of you was motivated to be on this call because of a precious human need. What's your need? I'll make a few guesses that I've heard over the years. Maybe you're here for learning, growth, connection, community, empathy, support, something else. And finally, consider, what could you do? Where's your power? What power, how would you like to use the superpower of your humanity to get your needs met today? What could you ask of yourself that could support you in getting your needs met? And finally, for this exercise, just consider, what was this like for you to take a few minutes out of your day and connect with yourself? Was this useful for you? Did it contribute in any way to your well-being? What did you learn? If your eyes have been closed, I invite you to open them if you'd like. And in a moment, we're going to go to small groups. I think Jory probably made groups of 3. There might be some groups of 2 or 4. Just depends on how it works out with the numbers. And some of you might have come in after Jory started making the group, so it might take us a few minutes for us to get you into a group. While you're in the small group, we'll do that for about 10 minutes. So everybody will have about 3 minutes to practice the honesty part of NVC. And you can answer those questions. What was the exercise like for you? How are you right now? What needs are alive in you? So I'll just make a shortcut. How are you right now? And you'll have 3 minutes to explore, and the invitation is to say, be as vulnerable and as honest as you're willing to be. And then you'll have 6 minutes to practice empathy. And the way that I suggest you practice empathy during this practice is silently. And the way you practice silent empathy is you look at the person that's speaking and you open your heart and you allow your whole body to receive not only the words that you hear, but the energy behind the words, the voice tone, the volume, the pace. And see if you can connect to the underlying needs. Why is this person sharing this? What's important to them? What's their need? So listening for needs would be the empathy prompt. And Jory, if you'd set it for 9 minutes plus 2. And we'll put those of you who have equal signs into your name in front of your name. It means you don't want to practice right now. We'll put you into your very own group. We'll call it the library, a place of silence. When you do go to everybody else who's going to practice, which is most of you, turn your camera on. Please turn your camera on. We get lots of feedback that people don't feel safe if they don't know who's on the other side of that black screen. So please contribute to the safety of our participants and the connection that comes from being able to see one another's faces. Our whole nervous systems relax when we get to see who we're connecting with. And with that, Jory.
Yeah, and if you came in late, I will be putting you into a room as quickly as I can. And with that, we'll open that up and we'll see you in a bit.
Ta-da! So I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. We had our own little small group here with a few folks. I wonder if there's anybody who would like to say anything into the large group at this moment. It would help you to feel more connected. Just raise your electronic hand if you don't know how to do that. We have so many people on the call, we can't see everybody. So the way that you raise your electronic hand is on the bottom of your screen. There's something called reactions, a little button that says reactions. You open that up and there's a place there that says raise hand, like Carol and Jim did. Go ahead, Carol and Jim, or Jim, either love or laugh.
Hi, it's Carol.
Hi, Carol. Go ahead.
Hi, aloha. These few minutes help me remember how powerful it is to be heard, to be received, in empathy, and to give empathy. It just, my splintered feelings and what was going on just zoomed right into those moments. And I feel so much more peace and still now than I did 6 minutes ago.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for that report. It's the power of human connection. Rena, and then Karen.
Hi. Yes, I was feeling very restless and having this FOMO because it's a beautiful sunny winter morning here in the mountains. And, this whole thing of equal to sign before my name, I was like literally itching to do that. And I realized that breakout rooms and, as you said, the power of human connection, especially in a big group, we are 75. And I'm so grateful for the title, Owning My Own Feelings, and making a choice and owning that choice. So it helped me to be in the breakout room, to do the processing and be received while I, settled into my choice to be here. So thank you very much.
Sweet. Thank you, Rena.
Yeah, you're welcome to be here.
I hope that encourages some of those equal signs to change for the next practice, which will be in a little while. So you've got some time to think about it. But it's all about the practice today. It's the most transformative practice I've ever discovered in NBC in 20 years. This is the peak experience. If that doesn't sell it, I don't know what will. And go ahead, Karen.
Yes, my afternoon involved in committee meetings and that are putting together purpose and action. And the high value there are the values of inclusion and oneness, unity, and there are so many ways of accomplishing that. It's such a high value of mine, and always has been. And so I bridged to tonight my practice of nonviolent communication, and that means coming here. I appreciate the inclusiveness of this group on Monday night, the religious inclusiveness, cultural inclusiveness, the diversity of people attracted to this practice all over the world gives me great hope. And I thank you, Jim and Joy, for your work.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the acknowledgement. And I'm so glad you're getting something out of these classes. And here's
I want to just turn it around and also express my appreciation that you're part of it, that all of you are part of it, that you show up. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to have
Jennifer?
75 of you here. Yeah.
And Jennifer?
Yes, I shared with my group that I struggled with the instructions today that we've got to listen in silent empathy, because I wanted to say something to the first person sharing to show that I had received it, and then the second person sharing, actually, I hope she doesn't mind my saying, she tried to fix the first person. So then I was trying to think, how do I stop fixing the second person? So then when we had only a few seconds left for me to share, I shared that bit plus what I'd actually come with at coming to the meeting, and I never found out how the first person had received all this. So I have no idea whether it was a good experience for anybody else. It was certainly quite a stressful experience for me.
Thank you. It sounds like
That's fun too.
It sounds like go ahead.
Sorry, that is also in a way part of the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was connecting with, was not only was it a little bit distressful for you, you really were in contact with this need to contribute, and you didn't quite know how to get that need met. And there was some fun, I'm guessing, for you in becoming aware of that deep habit in you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love seeing your smile. And we'll finish this little round with Varun. I hope I'm pronouncing your name, please.
I also see Ellen is unmuted before you plan to finish here.
Okay, we'll check with Ellen in a second. Go
Okay.
ahead, Varun.
I just wanted to say, this is my first time on your Zoom class, and I've never seen so many squares before. This is just like I'm blown away, and I was trying to figure out how you would do a breakout rooms with so many people. But I see that you've got the talent of knowing all about what to do on a computer, and yeah, I think it's just like be here and to learn with other people. And I like what you said in the beginning that, you know, you could talk and talk, but we would probably know. But going into the breakout rooms is really where we do the learning. And I can see how you're so right about that. So I'm grateful to be here. And thank you.
I'm glad you're here too, Ellen. And Varun, you had your hand up. Is there something that you'd like to share? If you're speaking, we can't hear you, Varun.
Oh, can't find you.
Maybe
I
you
wanted
fell
to
off
hear
the
what
call.
you wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just check. Okay, so it looks like he fell off the call, looking at my list here. So anyway, here we are, and we're going to dive into the transition from the last few weeks. This is, I think, the 5th week, maybe the 6th in this series. And so when you think about how's this been changing your life? We come here and practice, but it's not just about what happens here. It's about real world experience. So I'd like to hear from 1 or 2 people about what's working for you. What are you finding useful? And we'll start with Varun, who's back. Go ahead, Varun.
Oh, good. Here he is. Good.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. And this is my first time in such a format. I literally just started learning about NVC a few days ago, and I can already see what transformative way it is for me to look at relationships, to look at communication. And I was sharing with the person in my group who did such a brilliant job creating the space for me to share. The specific thought about what was alive in me at that moment, it brought out a lot of things that felt authentic, which I haven't been able to connect to in terms of like, what are my needs and what am I really feeling at the moment. And it turned out I had a lot in there, you know, that still is like a lot of needs that need to be addressed. So that was refreshing for me, and I look forward to being able to do the same for others. And that's all I'd like to share. Thank you.
Thank you. I love your enthusiasm, and I appreciate how you're willing to start practicing right away and noticing a difference. Thank you, Varun. Welcome. Anybody else want to share anything about what's useful for you from the classes so far? Go ahead, Siva. What's useful for you about what you're learning here? If you're talking, we can't hear you yet. There you go.
Yeah. That was an awesome experience, just listening to Varun. I don't know if I said his name right, but I mean, I think out of the mouths of babes oftentimes come gems. And when we're not such babes, or we don't think of ourselves as babes, we fear being so clear and present. So
thank you.
Thank you for articulating, and I hope that you won't lose that touch with yourself and your ability to share that.
Thanks, Siva. So in just a moment, we're going to launch into the main part of the presentation, but I wanted to kind of give a little title again for those of you who might have arrived a little later. The class is called Taking Ownership of One's Feelings. And this is comes from what we call the Pathways to Liberation Matrix of Self-Assessment. This is how we're defining it. I'll just read it, even though I know you guys can all read, but I'm going to read it anyway for the recording. Taking ownership of one's feelings means living from the knowledge that I alone cause my emotions. My emotions are not caused by others. And then this is the way that the matrix is set up. There's a pathway from being completely unskilled, never having heard of a particular skill, through the process of awakening, and then through practice becoming ever more capable until it becomes a consciousness. It actually becomes integrated into our consciousness. So I'll just be quiet for 30 seconds while you just review what's on here to set your brain up for what we'll be learning about today. And so Joy, in about 30 seconds, you can start your piece.
Anyone want a little bit more time? Feel free to just raise your hand.
Is this the same as in your book?
Yes, this is in the book.
Well,
Yes.
be sure you promote your book.
Oh, you can count on
We'll do
it.
that. In a little bit, yeah. More toward the end. Thank you. You're so cute, Siva. So I'd like to say a little bit about
What page? What page?
what
I don't
page?
know. I don't have it in front of me. So I don't know.
29.
Oh, someone says page 29. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd just like to say a little bit about two of the symbols of nonviolent communication. Many of you may know this, some of you may not. But when Marshall was teaching, he often liked to have little puppets that he worked with. And he had a puppet for a giraffe, which was the symbol of nonviolent communication. And he chose giraffe because, first of all, they're really tall and they have a lot of perspective of life. And they are also very protective. The giraffes are just amazing. If they see a lion coming at the water hole, they'll actually go and move toward protection. But they don't. Yeah, they actually, all they're wanting to do is protect. So this is a really strong part of nonviolent communication. And they have this perspective and they're wanting to contribute to life. And then there's another symbol. You would use a puppet of a jackal. Now, jackal is kind of like well, you can see it right there. It's an animal that is more low to the ground, lower perspective. They actually are more likely to want to grab what they can and less care about other people's needs, it seems. And so those were the two puppets that he would be using. And so today we're going to be playing with our jackal parts that are limited in our perspective, and we're going to be playing with our giraffe parts as we evolve into that level of perspective. You want to say anything else about that, Jim? Okay, so we're going to do a written process of exploring these parts within ourselves. So I'll give you a moment to get some paper and pencil, or if you prefer, or to be able to use your computer to type on it. And when you have that, what I'd like you to consider is a difficult message that you have received or that you might receive. So maybe it's something that's already happened or something you can imagining happen that would be difficult to receive. So, for example, last night after doing a lot of cleanup and having hosted a few friends over and doing a whole lot of cleanup and all of that, I got a message from two of my family members that I live with that I should do something differently. You know, I put everything in the dishwasher, dirty and all, and I was just going to rinse them. And they go, no, no, no. What you should do is you should run the whole thing, you know, get them all washed and clean, run the whole cycle. That was a difficult message for me. I was tired. I didn't want to do anything else. I wanted to do it my own way. I wanted to be done. So think of a message that you have heard that is difficult. So just write down just the message. For me, it was a simple thing, actually. You should just run the dishwasher. Write that, just that part that you heard or could hear. So we'll take another half a minute or so to complete that, as I see a few people still writing. Could be something as simple as just shut up. If you're having difficulty thinking of one. So I still see some people writing, so I'll wait. All right, I think we're ready to go. So we actually have 4 different choices for how we can receive this message. And certainly last night, my message was of what we would call jackal ears out. Yeah, my response. Well, if you just want to do it yourself, don't tell me what to do. Just do it yourself. So that would be my jackal ears out, where I just actually probably a bit, and I'll do a more deep example of that. You know, you're an idiot. You just think you know what's the right way to do it. So that could be my jackal ears out. So write down for you, what's your reaction? What kind of jackal ears, you're wrong, you shouldn't, you have to kind of response could you have to what you might have written down, what you might have heard? You can let it rip. Just for a sentence or so, not the whole.
Some people are saying that they can't see my screen share. Is that true for everybody? Or is it just a few people?
Yeah.
Does it look okay?
Yes.
Does it look okay to you, Jory?
It looks fine. So what I would suggest, if you look at the left side of your screen, where the videos of everybody ends, see if you can put your cursor there toward the middle and move the screen from the faces back and forth so that you can make the screen that Jim put up as visible as possible. Is that helpful? Anyone still need to be able to see the screen?
I think I'm seeing several comments and I agree that it's just kind of out of focus.
Huh.
It seems, yeah.
Making
Getting
it
a little
smaller,
better.
making it smaller gets it clearer for me.
Ah,
It's
And
so
it's totally clear for me.
yeah, I have a feeling it's not.
It's better. It's
Good.
better.
Great.
Jim,
I put in the chat that it's those black patches over the screen.
so for those of you who are having difficulty seeing that, I'll just share that. Basically what it says is share your judgment. It's your blame, your criticism, maybe even contempt of the other person. So the reactions might be things along the lines of, it's your fault. You are a fill in the blank with your criticism, or you should or shouldn't have, whatever. Sometimes we tell people they deserve maybe something like pain or punishment. So
what do you notice as you talk to yourself this way? How does your body respond when you speak a language of moral judgment to yourself like that? You can put your answers into the chat. And I'll read a few for the recording. What do you notice in your body?
something inside of me shrinks. Oh, you're going to read it. Go ahead, babe.
Constriction, tension, tight, constricted. There's some sense of relief to say what you're thinking. There's a release of anger.
Yeah.
That can happen.
I wonder if it's actually also a way of sort of puffing ourselves up when we start to feel small when someone jackals us.
Yes, and the answer to the question, Claudia, we're talking about jackal ears out response or reaction, where we're speaking the language of judgment towards the other person. And I usually don't say it out loud. I'm too little for that. I'm only 5'4" and only weigh 130 pounds. I'm not letting anybody know what my jackals are, except my sweetheart. She gets to hear them sometimes.
I heard it last night, sweetie.
Sad, hopeless, depressed, dejected, giving up, empowered. Yeah, there's a sense of power that sometimes comes with it's a kind of a relief, and you'll find out what it's a relief from when we do the next part. Yeah, Nikhil Ananda notices this mostly in his head. We're up in our heads when we're doing this. We're all thinking. We're like leading with our left brain, our logical or illogical left brain that divides up the world into separate parts, and I'm separate from you. I have a blame to myself, an inner jackal. That's a great little transition there, Jory. So let's do the next step.
Yeah. So what we just did were those jackal ears out. It's their fault and just blaming them. But there's another kind of jackal that happens for us sometimes. We turn it inside. So from a jackal ears inside, I'm wrong. the person, you're wrong for yourself, you know, you make it about yourself. And so my jackal ears in at that point could have been, oh yeah, I was just so stupid. I just should have rinsed them differently, or, you know, I should have as often, or some sort of flavor of I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm at fault. So just take a moment and write down what it would sound like if you turned on yourself with your guilt and your shame. And you can put some of those in the chat as well. And if you can see the screen, I'll read, just in case, I'll read it again. So jackal ears in is blame, criticism, or contempt of self. The reactions from guilt, shame, and depression. It's my fault. I am, fill in the blank with a criticism. I should or shouldn't have. I have to. I deserve pain or punishment of some sort. Jim, you want to read the stuff in the chat?
Yeah, when people start putting stuff in, I see Siva says, my feelings don't matter. That's a beautiful jackal ears in. I have that one too. I need to not bum everybody out.
Yeah.
I need to accept everything. It's always up to me. I have to be the one that is the good boy. I'm too.
And those are, sorry.
Yeah, I'm too sensitive.
So, yeah, and these are actually pretty painful, even to write them sometimes, to actually acknowledge some of that jackal toward ourselves. When we belittle ourselves, we make ourselves wrong.
Yeah. What do you notice in your body?
And I think that's, yeah, and I think that's partly why we jackal ears out sometimes. You know, it's that form of protection. Someone's wrong here. We live in such a right-wrong sort of dynamic that it's almost protective to make it about them and how wrong they are, because the only other choice that sometimes we can find is that it must be our fault. So that's the right-wrong game that we play.
And so what do you notice in your body when you talk to yourself with a language of moral judgment focused on your deficiencies? What do you feel in your body when you talk to yourself and tell yourself that you're selfish, or that you deserve to be punished, or that you should know better? What's that feel like to you? What sensations or emotions do you notice? Contraction, energy. Yeah. Heavy. Tightness. Oh, this sounds very familiar. It looks a lot like the first list of implosion. Breathless. Yeah, there was this wise guy that lived a couple of thousand years ago, 2,600 years ago, I think is the estimate. He summed it up in one word: suffering. This is emotional suffering. This habit we have of speaking to ourselves or speaking to others in a language of moral judgment. And luckily, or by grace, or whatever your belief system is, there's some other choices. Jory, what's the next choice?
So, yeah, so luckily we actually can go to another place of actual care for ourselves when we take the giraffe place first and put the oxygen mask on ourselves. We do our giraffe ears in and really care for ourselves, to really connect. to the truth of who we really are, that the truth is that we're always doing the best we know how. If we knew then something better, we would have done it. So just right now, write down the reaction that you might say if you were to treat yourself like a beloved person who made a mistake or who did something they wish they hadn't done. And write down that third choice of giraffe ears in. How could you speak to yourself if you were speaking to someone that you cared about?
As you consider how you might.
Oh, Jory. So I was going to give an example.
Go ahead, Jory.
Yeah. So I might speak to myself as, oh, Jory, you really feel tired. Yeah. You really just need some care and some space. You just really want to get done. So you can even connect it to your needs, my need for self-care. So write down your reaction, your feelings, your needs as you care for yourself.
This is what we mean by owning your feelings, that you're taking responsibility, that you see that you have feelings that are emerging from your needs. The other person didn't cause you to feel this. They might have stimulated it with the words that you heard, but your suffering and your pain is your responsibility. It's not your fault. That's actually why we chose the phrase with a lot of intention about owning your experience rather than being responsible, because responsible has this aura of blame, at least in the way it's used commonly in English. Who's to blame?
So, hey,
who owns that? You're the one who owns this experience.
yeah, so I'll take another minute or so, give you an opportunity to write. Actually, I'm just real quickly, I'm going to read some of the responses if people can't read them. So things like, ouch. What I notice that I'm feeling, fill in the blank with the feeling. Or what's important to me right now is.
And if you'd like to share what comes up for you as you talk to yourself this way, please put it into the chat. Thanks for the humor, John. And what happens to your body when you talk with a language of owning your feelings? More powerful. I love what Sarah Joy wrote, that she's actually wrote her self-empathy statement to herself, feeling overwhelmed and really wish for empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
What else do you notice in your body? Let's hear from a couple of more people in the chat. What's going on in your body when you talk to yourself with a language of generative power?
More powerful. I feel less alone when I'm, whoops, went too fast.
If you put your
You're
cursor
gonna
on it, it slows it down.
Yeah.
A bit sad when I don't know my needs at the moment. Yeah, that's called mourning. Sometimes there's a step in the middle where we just feel sad. We just allow ourselves to feel whatever we feel. I notice that I'm feeling more space, opening, warmth. Great. Looks like you guys are getting the hang of it. Get a chance for more practice in a minute. Let's go
Yeah.
on to the fourth one.
So
Joy.
we've covered 2 possible jackal responses: jackal ears out, jackal ears in. And now we went to the giraffe ears in, where we really cared for ourselves and acknowledged what ourselves in a way like we would treat a beloved person. And now the 4th possibility is that we turn that caring toward the other person. We see their humanity. Just like me, just like you and me, they were doing the best they knew how. They're just human beings. If they knew something better, they could have chosen it. So this is our opportunity to now have some compassion for the other person.
We call
So
this.
write down how you might acknowledge, just with some care, with some empathy, you might acknowledge the other person. And there's Jim's screen share. So I'll read it. Focusing on another's experience with warmth, resonance, and compassion. And some examples are you feeling? And then just whatever that emotion or sensation that you sense. Or are you just wanting, filling in the blank with something that is mutually of value? We might acknowledge a need, so blank, a need. So Jim, when you said that, is it that really supporting, giving support is important to you? So that's how I might have acknowledged him. Or, hey, Jim, were you feeling, I have no idea what you were feeling. I don't know if I could go there. I wasn't in a feeling space, but were you just wanting to help?
Yeah, just wanting to help and also to conserve resources and make life easier for everybody. It's really about contributing to ease. Didn't work out that way. Win some and you lose some, but thank you for the guess.
And this is what often happens when we can just acknowledge why someone might have done what they've done. They kind of lean in instead of that pushing back and forth and disconnection.
So what do you notice in your body when you try empathy? How does your body respond when you attune to feelings and needs? We just had a little internet burp. For those of you who don't know, we live in the middle of nowhere, in Maui, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and sometimes our internet flashes a little bit.
Interesting. It didn't do it down up here.
You froze for me. I got a little notice. It might have
I
just
did.
there, yeah. So I'm seeing from Clay, relaxing, calming. What else?
More connected.
Yeah. Relaxation, softens, a softening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sense the energy of love flow from my heart to that person.
We often hear things like, well, I was giving empathy. Ourselves. It's a gift to the relationship, to shared humanity. Opening of the heart, at peace, open. A sense of energy and of love. I think you read that one. Oh, Juliana, free. A sense of liberation, not stuck in that yucky place of that we were in when we were jackling.
I like what Renee wrote. Sometimes I still feel angry, jackal ears out. This lets me know that I am out of relationship with them and I may need more self-empathy or empathy before I can turn my giraffe ears out. That's all it ever means. That's such a beautiful insight that you share with us, Renee. If we still feel angry, it just means we need more empathy or self-empathy. And if we don't feel the love yet, that's just what we're feeling now. You would just allow that. You don't make yourself wrong. You don't put jackal ears in because you're not doing it good enough. Everybody pays the price then. Likewise with feel resentful, it just means you need anything in that whole spectrum of angry feelings. That's all just indications of jackal ears out. Just means that you're suffering from a temporary language problem. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just old habits that still sneak in.
Yeah, never think that we have to move to empathy for the other person in a situation. If we're not connecting to empathy, it's because we are missing the empathy that we need. And it's unlikely usually that we're going to get it from the person that we're frustrated with. So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to take care of ourselves. And I see Rena, whoops, it's going by fast. Feel the love between. That is a longing within us all. And I see Beth has raised her hand. Would you like to say something, Beth?
Yeah, I had it up for a little bit earlier, and now it came back to me what I wanted to say. And when you were talking about jackal ears I think that, and I'll use a nice statement, I think that and probably everybody else possibly, when we do that, it's as the defense mechanism, because we're upset about something in our inner, like you were talking about the end of the day and you're really tired. You don't have the energy to show empathy. You're feeling angry and you're afraid if you take it out on the other person, then it's going to be even worse. I tend to, at that point, do the jackal ears in. Mm-hmm. I feel so ugly. I feel like I failed. I feel like, that sort of thing. And in a way, it might be a defense mechanism, so don't create a problem. I also feel like I will do that with somebody who I feel is a caring person, hoping to evoke, oh no, I don't feel, then they start feeding me back this energy that I'm lacking at that moment. That's kind of a universal.
That makes sense to me, Beth.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I'm guessing that many of us, even as children, learned that if we shrink ourselves down a little bit, maybe the other person will feel sorry for us and they'll come toward us and help us out. And I mean, occasionally it does happen. Look how many of us here were writing things that indicated our care for the other person, our ability to just come back into what we call pono, or in Hawaiian, that.
Jory might be frozen. I'm not sure if she's frozen for you guys, but she froze for me. Let's see, maybe it's on my end. Looks like I've got a little internet.
She's not frozen for me either.
Okay, good. Great.
But now I feel a little frozen mid-sentence.
Elsa.
I must have a little sunspot down here in the downstairs where my office is. So let's get ready for practice. because I want to make sure you have close to a half an hour for practice. We'll see how long it takes for me to explain the practice to you. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it'll be clear enough for most of you to read. But there's 3 roles in the practice. Role number 1 is the Jackal Postal Delivery Service. So that just means you say your sentence, the difficult message. You say a little one-liner like, you should do it differently, Jory. Just that one little liner. One person shares that their difficult message. And then the explorer, your role is to go through the 4 choices. And so first you'll say your response with jackal ears out. Then the Jackal Postal Delivery Service will give you the same message again. Then you'll react with jackal ears in. The post office will deliver the same message a 3rd time. And then you'll respond with the best you can, your giraffe ears in. Maybe you're just saying what your feeling is. Maybe you're saying just what your need is, but whatever, maybe it's your feeling and your need, but respond with some quality of warmth for yourself. Then you hear the message one for the 4th and final time. And then you do your best to respond with empathy, pointing the light of your consciousness on the person delivering the message. What's alive in them when they delivered the message? And then when you're done, switch so that everybody gets a chance to play all 3 roles. And Lou, do you have a question about the process?
About the focus. Is it possible to try again a little bit?
Yeah, somebody said if I move my cursor over here, it helps for some, I don't know why that is. I can also try making my screen a little bit bigger and see if that helps.
For some reason, I have black squares in front of, I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I see those also.
Huh.
And it's usually
very blurry.
Sometimes it's in front of the thing.
It is quite blurry.
That's a real bummer.
Yeah, let me see if there's a way we can move that around a little bit. Nope. If you make it bigger, I mean, just temporarily, it's still fuzzy, but it is readable. And Jim, maybe you can put it in the chat and people can copy it.
It's getting a little better
for a minute.
Yeah. Jim, can you do that, or you want me to do it?
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Okay, there, now it's in the chat. So you'll have it with you when you go to the group, but I won't share the screen with you this time since I seem to have a blur. I'll see if I can talk to Zoom and find out what's going on. So anyway, Joy, reset the timer and do it for 25 minutes.
Okay, and Jim, did you rearrange things? Well,
I did. We'll have to rearrange some more because we had about 20 more people show up.
Okay, so let's see, you said how many, 25?
Yeah, make it 25. That'll give you guys 9 minutes apiece to practice because there's a total of 27 minutes.
So one person will be just listening while one person leads and another person is doing the practice. Yeah. And the invitation really is when 2 people are working together to just see what you can learn quietly.
Okay, here we go. Let's try it, Jory, and I'll try to figure out what's going on with my screen share.
Okay, and I'll move anyone who's not in a group into a group. So we'll go from. Oh, I'm just laughing because I was just telling her I had my workout while you were having yours.
All right, so Jory, why don't you do the little bit of the debrief here and leave me about 5 or 6 minutes at the end.
Yeah, so what'd you notice? I'd love to hear some feedback about how that was for you. What did you notice happened when you did that practice? And I see Nikhil Ananda has his hand up, or is at least in the queue there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say I loved my group. The two people are just a joy, and I loved it.
Okay. And Carol or Jim, you want to comment on the process?
Yeah, I was a little confused at the beginning, but then when I was the one who was responding to the difficult message, the last part, wow, by the time I got there, totally transformed, because the question was being asked, why didn't you do something,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Which is the thing I get from my sister all the time. And I was able to respond to Fumiko with giraffe ears. Like, I understand that I thank you for caring so much about my cat, blah, 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 blah. And wow, I think I am going to be able to respond to my sister totally differently now.
Yeah, what a
Wow.
gift. What a gift to yourself and to her as well in your relationship. Beautiful. Thank you. And Corey?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun as always. This exercise is, playfulness. And we had a question come up that I just thought I'd bring forward that, so when, we're practicing it, so what would you suggest when, someone's doing it, but they're not accurate, according to this. And in particular, what was happening was more than one of us was, instead of responding like with universal needs, we were making it personal about us. Like, so do you have a need for me too? Or that kind of, would really like me too, or, something like that. Or it's kind of really implied. And so then the person is wondering, well, I want, if we want to help them, how do you suggest we do that in a way that would work with our?
So if I'm tracking you, you were asking, when you were leading, you were asking, so what were your needs? Is that it?
I'm not sure I'm being clear, and I'm not understanding.
I got it. I think I got it, Corey. I think I got it. Let me see if this answers your question. You're asking, what would you do if you're in a group and somebody does MVC in a way that maybe isn't what you expect? They might personalize a need rather than use a universal need, for example.
I just want to help them understand a couple of things, and then how do we do that in a way that you would recommend that's gentle and it's.
I would do it with empathy. So if somebody says, I really need my husband to leave me alone about the dishwasher, I might say, so you're really just needing some space to do it yourself. So I would empathically kind of feed them the need rather than to correct them with the need.
So what I'm hearing is not to say, I want to correct you, or I have by the way, that's not a universal need, not to point that out, just to simply say it the way you think would be correct.
Exactly. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing I might also do is just make a guess at what the need is. And that what that happens, if that's what you're looking for, people tend to, well, if I say, are you needing some care? And so they got to check in and go, no, what I'm actually needing is.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for the question, Corey. And Clay?
So I had a insight awakening, and that was, I don't jackal out. I don't generally, when I hear a hard message to hear, I usually jackal in. I don't usually jackal out. And the other participant in the group talked about how jackaling out helped them identify what was going on with them, and it pointed to their needs. And so it occurred to me that maybe if I jackaled out, at least on paper, that it might help me to identify my needs and therefore lead me to strategies to get my needs met.
Great idea.
That makes perfect sense. And I just want to acknowledge that for some of us, jackaling out is easier, and for some of us, jackaling in are easier. We've learned these patterns throughout our lives, and being able to identify both actually expands our awareness, because now we're observing it from above as opposed to being wrapped in it. So thank you, Clay, for your comment.
And as I keep working on myself with NVC, I notice that these giraffe choices become more accessible, and I'm still able to access the jackal choices, but I just keep them to myself. They don't really serve me, except maybe in journaling, like Clay suggested, or maybe if I've got an empathy buddy and I just want to run it off with an empathy buddy about somebody else, just to help me get clear on my needs. I think that's a great insight. Clown.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what we were going to do, but the two ladies that I was in with there, they understood it, and I just could leave it to them and be guided. And I really like to know what's going on and understand it, but I could just let them take it over, and it worked out really well. I was really happy with it.
Sweet.
Nice, beautiful, yeah.
Joy of
It's one of the joys of having a group is that we can support each other and touching into these things. Thank you, Kyle.
Richard, and then we'll finish with Rob. Oh, and then Juliana.
And Juliana.
Yeah, I was the observer, and I came in late, so I wanted to do that so I could learn, and I did. But I heard something that I've never heard before that I'm going to use quite often, and I think that's why I'm here. Also, I some of these phrases we use and things we say with empathy and understanding, I never heard that from other people. I never, so anyways, the explorer said to the presenter, forgive me for not meeting your needs.
Mm.
The presenter wasn't into how the explorer was exploring, and it was just beautiful that the explorer said, please forgive me for not meeting your needs, and that's something I'm going to use.
See what happens. Yeah, beautiful. And what I keep learning is nothing works all the time, and having kind of a variety of possibilities is great, and just trying new things out, finding out what leads to connection. Beautiful. Rob, and then Juliana.
Yeah, we had sort of comments at the end. It was sort of a jackal comment, but it was talked about earlier, but it really helped me when the person said, it's kind of a universal situation there. You just, it's the baggage you get with being in a relationship. And all of a sudden I felt clarity and more of a sense of ease and not so much discombobulated. And it really was helpful.
Thank you. Excellent. Juliana.
So in stage 3, that is when I was giving a giraffe in or giving myself empathy, I realized I was accepting the other person. When I said just like me, the other person was doing the best they could. And this time I found myself jumping to another higher level where I was able to accept myself. Like I said to myself, I will not stop myself because the hurt was stopping me and all. I will jump in and let my light continue to shine with more sensitivity this time. So I was not the healing was more, and I was able to, I was not just being, submissive and just dormant and accepting of the other person, but I also accepted myself, and I was able to jump back into action. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we're coming down to the last 5 minutes. I want to kind of summarize some of what we've done, and I'm going to take the risk and do a little screen share again to try to summarize. I did some work in the background trying to figure out, so I'm very curious to see if anything I did mattered. And so here's 3 little slides about the journey towards owning our feelings. And we all are born with this in kind of a non-dual state where we don't really have concepts. If you have ever looked into the eyes of a newborn baby, you see that they're just alive. They're just perceiving and sensing and reacting to the stimuli there. And they're learning to navigate a world of people and objects. And this for me is the expression of our basic nature. That we're born with this ability to compassionate give and receive. If you've ever been, again, like with this newborn experience, it's like there's such a sense of connection and compassionate giving and receiving. They cry, they're letting us know what their request is. We're empathizing with them, trying to make a guess. So that's where we start. And then we start to get educated by the world, and we learn, I feel because you made me mad, you hurt my feelings, or you feel because you feel hurt because I raised my voice towards you, or something like that. So we mix up cause and stimulus. We think that the outside world of people and objects is causing our feelings. And it's reinforced over and over and over again by media and songs and movies and so forth. It's just the message that we get, both through media and through our teachers and parents and so forth. And it results in what Marshall called emotional slavery, where we become victims of our own feelings, and we think that we can actually, other people can cause our suffering. And then we start waking up and we realize that our feelings are emerging because of our needs. And that's true for you too. Your feelings are emerging because of your needs. And together we can collaborate and figure out how we can get our needs met. So the more I'm learning to take responsibility for my feelings and assuming that other people are equally responsible, we're on the superhighway towards what Marshall called emotional liberation. And that's what we'll continue to work on over the next few weeks. And Clay, especially you, I'd love to see some feedback in the chat if my screen sharing was any better or any worse with what I just did. And the last thing that I want to say is how you can contribute to keeping these classes going and keeping the mission going for the Center for Nonviolent Communication. You can donate directly to the Center for Nonviolent Communication. Jory, if you could put the link into the chat for it's on our agenda at the very top for the contributions. And then the other way you can contribute is by buying a copy of my book, or 10 copies or 40 copies or whatever. They're about $10 a piece. Last time I looked, they were on sale on Amazon for $8. So that's pretty cool. If you like Amazon, some people don't blame you. And Jory will also put the link in for a place where you can get books shipped to 100 countries for free. So they don't really mark up the book any higher than anybody else. And so you can get the book. And the reason we're promoting the book is because it too is a fundraiser for the Center for Nonviolent Communication. So both the publisher and I are donating any of our profits towards CNBC to help them to navigate the pandemic. So thank you for your support. We've raised literally thousands of dollars over the last year and a half, or almost 2 years now that we've been doing this. And because of your support, we've been able to give scholarships that enabled people like at the Spanish VIT to attend who could not otherwise attend, things like that. So anything that you put towards that would be greatly appreciated. And people say, how much is a class like this? How much should it cost? And I would say about somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 to $20 would be something that most trainers are probably asking for a group like this, somewhere in the $10 to $20 range. And of course, we never want anybody to not come because of money. When we've been doing practice groups in our home, sometimes we get a dozen eggs, or we get somebody to do some yard work, or we just get a big hug and a thank you note. That's all fine. And sometimes people will give us way more than we would expect. And so whatever, we want you to find out what's in your heart to give. and enjoy that, the compassionate giving part to balance out any receiving that you've had here. Next week, we'll continue the journey with needs consciousness. I consider it the heart of NVC, the thing that, one of the things that distinguishes nonviolent communication from so many other things is the focus on universal human needs. And we'll dive into that next week with a lot of depth. So now we can unlock our microphones and say a big chaotic goodbye. And then we can put you back into your groups or find other groups for you if you would like to do a little after party. So aloha, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Aloha.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Aloha. Au revoir.